Welcome to Lavender Town Radio, where shadows whisper and every story hides a darker truth. Tonight, let me take you deeper into the world of Pokémon you were never meant to see. My name is Amelia. I live an exquisitely boring life. My small apartment in Violet City is my sanctuary, a place filled with sunlight, the smell of oil paints, and the soft snores of my Meowth, Jasper. I'm a freelance graphic designer, which means I get to spend most of my days in pajamas, with a warm cup of tea, and a comfortable silence. My life is defined by the mundane, the chiming of the Sprout Tower at noon, the smell of fresh Moo Moo milk pastries from the bakery downstairs, and, of course, the TV. The television is my constant companion, an endless stream of cheesy dramas and comforting cooking shows. It is the white noise to my solitude. Until one Tuesday night, the night the white noise turned into a scream. I was watching a competitive gardening show, engrossed in the high drama of a Bellisum refusing to bloom. Suddenly, the screen flickered. The image of vibrant flowers dissolved into a sea of black and white static. A piercing shriek erupted from the speakers, startling Jasper and sending him scurrying under the sofa. "Damn it," I muttered, slapping the side of the old TV. "Not again." But then, the static settled. It didn't return to the gardening show. Instead, a different image emerged. It was grainy, low quality, like an old VHS tape that had been played one too many times. A white timestamp in the bottom left corner read, Day 01, 14/32/04. The video seemed to be shot on handheld camera. It showed a group of 4 people in a dark stone chamber. They were setting up complex electronic equipment. An older man, clearly the leader, turned to the camera and smiled. "Are we rolling, Sam? Good. This is Dr. Eris Thorne, head of Project Lexicon. We are on day 1 of our expedition, deep inside the ruins of Alph. The equipment is in place. We are about to become the first people to record and decode their language." The camera panned to the others. A young woman with bright eyes was intently sketching strange symbols into a notebook. A technician was grumbling about frequency interference. And on the stone walls around them, illuminated by work lamps, were those symbols, eyeball-shaped creatures with spindly limbs, the Unown. The clip lasted maybe 30 seconds. It ended abruptly, cutting back to static, and then the gardening show resumed as if nothing had happened. I sat there, stunned. It had to be a prank, some down footage show that had been accidentally broadcast. I tried to forget it, but that was only the first tape. My TV started playing videos that don't exist. They were the final messages of a research team that vanished. 2 days later, it happened again. This time, I was watching the news. Static, shriek, and then a new image. Day 04, 21/15/52. The same stone room, but the atmosphere had changed. The excitement was gone, replaced by a palpable tension. The woman, Lena, was crouched on the floor, surrounded by hundreds of pages covered in unknown symbols. She wasn't writing anymore. She was whispering to them. The technician, Ben, was clutching his head. "That humming," he said, his voice distorted on the tape. "It won't stop. It's right behind my ears." Dr. Thorne looked exhausted but determined. "It's just the equipment, Ben. Focus. We're getting our first results." The camera, presumably held by Sam, zoomed in on a computer monitor. A piece of software was attempting to translate the unknown patterns. On the screen, single letters began to appear. W. E. We see you. The screen flickered and went dead. The video ended. I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. This wasn't a joke. It felt too real. "We see you." Who was speaking? The unknown or the people on the tape? I did what any sane person would do. I searched online. Project Lexicon. Dr. Eris Thorne, Ruins of Alph. Most of the results were old articles from 2 years ago, announcing a promising research project from Goldenrod University to decipher the unknown language. And then I found it. A small, buried article in the archives of a local paper. Alph research team missing. Search called off. The article said that 4 researchers, Eris Thorne, Lena Petrova, Ben Carter, and Samuel Jones, had entered the ruins of Alph 2 years ago and never returned. No trace was ever found. They had vanished, as if they never existed. I was watching ghosts. I was watching their final moments. And those moments were being broadcast exclusively to me in my own living room.
The scientists thought they were translating an ancient language, but the language was translating them. I became obsessed. I stopped working. I sat in front of the TV all day with a notebook and pen, waiting. Jasper seemed to sense my tension, curling up in my lap and letting out a low growl whenever the static started. The tapes came randomly, sometimes days apart, sometimes only hours. They were out of order. One day I'd get day 02, the next day 09. I felt like an archaeologist piecing together a shattered skeleton, and the skeleton was horrifying. Day 06, 04, 03, 11. The room was now in chaotic disarray. Lena was no longer using paper. She was arranging tools, food containers, even their clothes into the shapes of unknown letters on the floor. She didn't speak a word. Day 09, 1740, 01. Ben was slamming his head against one of the computer monitors. "Get it out of my head," he screamed, blood streaming down his face. The frequency, it's rewriting my thoughts. Dr. Thorne tried to restrain him. The camera shook violently. Day 11, 22, 30. This was the tape that made me sick. Lena was sitting in a corner, perfectly silent. She was slowly bending her fingers into impossible shapes, dislocating them with a dry crack that I could hear clearly. She showed no pain, just intense concentration, as if learning a new skill. Sam, the cameraman, was sobbing behind the lens. "Doctor, we have to get out of here. Lena." "Quiet, Sam." Thorne's voice was now a hoarse, manic rasp. "Don't you understand? This isn't a language. It's an operating system for reality. They aren't symbols for things. They are the things. We aren't the translators. We are the medium." I tried to investigate further, but I was too scared. I was an artist who lived alone, not an explorer. I called the cable company. They sent a technician. He checked everything and said my signal was perfectly normal. He looked at me like I was crazy. Maybe I was. The final tape had no screaming, only the sound of bones being bent into the shape of a letter. The tapes started to bleed into my world. I began to hear the faint humming from the tapes, even when the TV was off. I started seeing unknown-like shapes in the patterns of my carpet, in the clouds, in the cracks on the sidewalk. One night, I woke with a jolt. My living room TV had turned itself on. It was showing a new tape. Day 14. The timestamp was corrupted. The footage was almost completely dark, lit only by the faint glow of a computer monitor. Ben was gone. So was Lena. Only Dr. Thorne and Sam remained. Thorne was standing before a stone wall where hundreds of unknown were swirling like a swarm of insects. "It's beautiful, isn't it, Sam?" Thorne whispered. "The purity, no ambiguity. Every idea, every concept, a single perfect form." He turned, his face a silhouette. Human language is messy. It creates lies, misunderstandings. But here Here there is only truth, and the truth must have a shape. He stepped towards Sam. Sam backed away, the camera lowering. "Stay away from me!" We need a new word, a word for transcendence through reconfiguration, and you have all the right syllables. The camera fell to the floor. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear the sounds of a struggle, Sam's muffled scream, and then a series of sickening, nauseating sounds. The dry snap of breaking bones, the wet tear of flesh, a gurgling moan. It went on for 3 minutes, the longest 3 minutes of my life. When the sound stopped, the camera was picked up. It was aimed at the wall, where a new, complex, and distorted unknown symbol had appeared, glowing faintly. It seemed to still be twitching. The video ended. I screamed. I unplugged the TV, the computer, everything. I huddled in the corner of my room, shaking, until the sun came up. I unplugged the TV, but the videos didn't stop. They started appearing on every screen around me. I thought it was over. I was wrong. The next day, I was trying to work on my tablet, trying to find some semblance of normalcy. The screen suddenly fizzled into static. Day 17. No. The tape showed the empty stone room. No equipment, no people, just the walls covered in thousands of glowing unknown symbols. And then a cluster of unknown in the center began to move. They rearranged themselves. They weren't single words anymore. They were writing a sentence. W-E, like, your voice, it, is, warm, but, incomplete, teach, us, more. A single question mark shaped unknown appeared at the end. It wasn't a recording. It was a message. To me. I threw the tablet across the room. It shattered, but the message was still burned into my mind. They had learned our language from the minds of those 4 researchers, and now they wanted more. The horror was no longer passive. I was a part of it. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. I boarded up the windows. I didn't dare look at any reflective surface, afraid I would see the letters staring back at me. The humming in my head grew louder. I knew I couldn't escape. The signal wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from somewhere else, and it had found me. Tonight, I decided I had to face it. Living in fear was worse than whatever came next. I plugged the TV back in. I sat before the blank screen, waiting. Hours passed. Nothing. Maybe it had given up. Maybe I was free. Then the screen turned on. No static. No timestamp. It was a live feed, shot from a high angle in my own living room, looking down at me. The last tape wasn't a recording. It was a live stream from inside my house. Time seemed to stop. I stared at the image of myself on the TV. A small, terrified woman sitting on the floor. I looked up at the corner of the room. There was nothing there. No camera. Yet the image remained. And then, an overlay of text appeared on the screen, formed from glowing unknown. ANEWWORD FORPERCEPTION AHAPE for thought. You have all the right syllables. I didn't understand, but then I felt it. A compulsion. It started in my fingers, a tingling numbness, followed by an involuntary twitch. I looked down at my hands in horror. My pinky finger was bending backward on its own,
at an anatomically possible angle, with a soft pop. I felt no pain. I tried to fight it, tried to make a fist, but I was no longer in control. It was as if my body was a marionette and someone had just picked up the strings. On the TV screen, I watched the image of myself get to its feet, moving with a stiff, jerky motion. My index finger folded, my wrist twisted inward. My arm began to bend at the elbow in the wrong direction. Each movement was accompanied by the sound of grinding cartilage and dislocated bone. I was being translated. My soul was screaming, trapped inside a body that was being turned into something alien. I understood. This is how their language spreads. It is not learned, it is lived. It finds complex consciousnesses and turns them into new words, new concepts. The researchers weren't the first victims. They were just the first to record it. I was shuffling towards the wall. I couldn't stop. I could feel my spine begin to curve, the vertebrae clicking as they realigned. I was becoming a symbol, a new word for terror, a word that would be broadcast to the next victim. This is my last thought as Amelia. The humming in my head is no longer noise. It's a voice. Thousands of voices. Thorn, Lena, Ben, Sam, and countless others before them. They are welcoming me to the choir. I can see the shape I am to become in my mind's eye. It is so complex, so beautiful. On the TV screen, one last sentence formed from the unknown. N-O-W-Y-O-U, speak. And then I was no longer me. I was just the sound of bones breaking in the silence.
The signal fades, but the darkness lingers. This was Lavender Town Radio. Return, if you dare, because the next story may be your last.